All right, let's go to Andrew Smith, political science professor at the University of New Hampshire. He joins us now for his take on the situation. Thanks for your time today.
You're welcome. Good evening.
So what were the reasons given for the Moore request to be denied other than it was investigated? Was that enough?
I think that was enough. If you looked at the charges that he brought against or the arguments that he brought to the court, they were very flimsy. Actually, there really wasn't any statistical evidence that he brought. He brought opinions of some people, but the Secretary of State's office had already investigated most of the complaints that he had brought, and the courts discounted those. And in this case, the Republicans who certified the election, the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General also discounted those concerns, as you heard in that clip.
Mr. Moore has yet to concede. I mean, how does that look, and does that really matter?
Well, in the long run, it doesn't really matter. It's the votes that matter. It makes Moore look, frankly, rather like a sore loser. He ran a race, he lost. Granted, there were things in that race that were hard fought, and he was probably very upset about the accusations of his dating younger women, but he has the opportunity to counter those during the election. So it doesn't really matter in the long run, other than it probably means that Roy Moore's political career in Alabama is likely over.
So, Andrew, let's talk about Doug Jones for a moment, because I want to get your take on whether you think he's a one-off winner in Alabama, or are we beginning to see the start of a trend, something that could continue in that state?
I think he's probably one off in Alabama. This is a special election. It's not even a typical midterm election. He was running against a candidate who was not favored by the Republican Party going into the election, and obviously with the charges of dating young women, that really hamstrung him in the election. I think this was probably a one-off election for Democrats in Alabama, but that doesn't mean that it's not a harbinger of what's likely to happen in 2018. Democrats are in a very strong position to take the U.S. House of Representatives, and by Jones winning this seat, it means that they're in a better position of taking the Senate. I doubt that they will take the Senate, but they're in a better position to do than before the election.
And you mentioned it to be sort of perhaps a representative of what could come, or perhaps, we'll put a perhaps there. What does it mean for Donald Trump? We talked about his endorsement of Moore and how that sort of went down the drain. I mean, does it still mean anything for him?
I don't really think so. I think this election was won and lost based on the candidates in the election, and largely because Moore was such a damaged candidate prior to the election than certainly during the election itself. Trump's non-endorsement, then endorsement over the last last week, I don't really think is the key to why Moore won or lost. But I think the bigger picture is that the president's party almost always loses in midterm elections. Trump has very low favorability ratings and job approval ratings, which are generally correlated with the loss of a lot of seats for his party. I think the Moore election and actually the turnout that Democrats were able to generate in Alabama is really the thing to pay attention to in 2018. Democrats are mad. Republicans aren't really so happy with Donald Trump anyway. That combination spells a lot of losses for Republicans.
Andrew Smith, thanks for joining us on the program today. Got to leave it there.
Thank you.